I'm so tired of legacy sequels. Ever since The Force Awakens, we've had a slew of films looking to reignite the fire of a past franchise. While some of these attempts have worked, there have been a lot of mixed results.
Somehow Palpatine returned.
In a legacy sequel, the original character crosses paths with a sort of spiritual successor and culminates in a form of baton being passed down to them. Funnily enough, it was Martin Scorsese who helped start this trend. Despite his aversion to modern franchises, he made The Colour of Money as a follow-up to The Hustler back in 1986. In it, Tom Cruise is a charismatic pool player who gets coached in the art of hustling by Paul Newman, returning as Fast Eddie Felson. Not only was the Scorsese sequel a great movie, but it set the standard for what a new narrative could look like in the wake of a classic. Fresh and full of energy. The Hustler worked because it was a contemporary film noir, a simple story elevated by top-notch performances, but grounded in a familiar aesthetic. Scorsese shook it up. A 25-year gap between the two films meant something had to change. From Easy Rider to The Godfather, New Hollywood had landed and reshaped cinema for good. The Colour of Money benefited from these creative freedoms and in turn was imbued with a modern depth. The scenes were fleshed out as we got up close and personal with not only the characters, but the pool tables too. Scorsese's talent combined with film's growing potential warranted making the sequel, but these days this kind of narrative has been done to death, and then resurrected again for 2 more Ghostbusters films.
There's something strange in the neighborhood. Who are they gonna call? If there's something weird and it don't look good, who are you gonna call?
Ghostbusters.
Well, I'm sorry, what was that?
Ghostbusters.
Ghostbusters!
Hollywood keeps trying to claw itself back into relevance, but winds up leaving an unshakable sense of deja vu. A kind of bitter feeling that you've seen something before, but done better. Some have worked, many have failed. The latest legacy sequel to hit the big screen was Karate Kid Legends. In it, Daniel LaRusso from the original and Mr. Han from the remake unite to train the new Karate Kid, Li Fong. On the surface, I thought it'd be great. A fresh approach to a classic story with solid actors returning, but it sadly fell short. Legends could have been the next No Way Home, but instead had me thinking about heading home. Both the action and story were really forgettable. Granted, it tried to insert some plot points about grief and perseverance, but unfortunately ended up feeling half-baked. We're not given much to latch onto with any of the characters. The performances aren't anything to write home about, but beyond that, the dialogue is simply uninspiring.
Let's make a Karate Kid.
It might seem an obvious thing to say, but there's a reason the 80s Karate Kid has become a cult classic and a bona fide dad movie. Its premise is simple, but explored in a very human way. The narrative only worked because the characters were so rich and layered. Legends rushes into its story, expecting everyone to be on board without slowing down to show us why we should actually care. A glossy modern sheen and fan favourite characters are all well and good, but there's no real foundation there. Karate Kid falls into the trap of previous sequels where it adds too many characters and in turn does a disservice to all of them. You can't get hooked on the new cast, but don't have enough time to fall back in love with the old one. A lose-lose situation. The Hustler and The Colour of Money each had 3 main characters with interesting dynamics. Karate Kid Legends has 7, each written and developed poorly. Like a lot of modern movies, it feels like we're on a whistle-stop tour to meet the big actors and reach the action set pieces. Not to sound like a certain bushy-browed director, but that's not what cinema should be about. I mean, why does a $45 million film with a cinema release look and sound like a bad Netflix original? Too clean, too quick, too hollow. Looking back at 80s films, I can admire the skill it takes to create and then savour a moment. Be it dramatic, romantic, or action-packed, they knew they couldn't hide behind post-production too much. The emphasis was always on capturing well-written performances, Not necessarily the action, and definitely not the visual effects. Having green screen locations featuring the new Karate Kid really detracts from the atmosphere, making it harder to buy into the story. A good legacy sequel should change up the story without compromising its core values. Creed shifted from Rocky Balboa's experience to Adonis's, while sticking to its guns. By focusing on the son of Apollo Creed, Ryan Coogler took a new approach. He crafted a satisfying story, while staying in the spirit of Rocky. It could have gone terribly, but the creative control he showed proved his skill. Not only was he continuing his partnership with Michael B. Jordan, but he co-wrote and directed Creed, shaping its entire trajectory. It's only when you compare these new films to the spectacles Scorsese and Coogler make that you realise how many are simply bloated rehashes of their predecessors. There'll be more great legacy sequels, but for now, perhaps we should be more like Ryan Coogler and move on to something more original. Thanks for watching, my name's been Never Hold Back, and I'll see you next time.